I think another unique part of the center is there's always been a very, very strong focus on nutrition.
Yes.
And nutrition has been the forefront of all levels of care. And when I think back now, I feel very tired and overwhelmed that I was the only dietitian at the center for as long as I was. But we now have 4 full-time dietitians on staff, and part of what I think really is unique to us is not just our nutrition philosophy, but how personalized we make the nutritional meal plans for our clients. And thankfully, we do have that focus. And I have been able to train other dietitians on our philosophy as it relates to eating disorders, using the research that we have learned. And I'm just very grateful that that was never an area that was considered to be one of the areas where we would not really focus on as much anymore. It was critical, regardless of whether we added on with the families and we needed to add more groups and other levels of care. We always made sure that nutrition was the focus and the center and the foundation, because it is the thread, no matter what level of care the client comes in at. One of the first things that has to be obtained is that meal plan, that nourishment.
And Sonia, you've always made that such an integral part. I mean, I remember many times when families are struggling or clients are struggling and saying, you need to meet with Sonia, because you have a very unique, special way of delivering an individualized, personal, motivating, competent message that gives everybody strength, gives the client strength to go on, gives the family the confidence to keep struggling. So, you know, that the center valued nutrition, you brought the nutrition to the center, and you brought that value to the center because you are a leader in, and you always have been, Sonia, in how to help this very, very difficult disorder through a nutrition. You know, we all know programs that were, you start eating this many calories, you get the weight restored, you feed, and nothing happens until you feed. And that is the model many places, and that's never been our model here. Our model has always been, you have brought that. And now the neurobiology supports that, and we now know what happens in the brain with food and the anxiety and depression and all of the indecision that goes on in the brain. But even without knowing that, from a research base, you intuitively knew that from the very beginning. That's you true. Have always individualized, always. And there aren't other programs in the country historically that individualized their nutrition. They had a meal plan that was basically calorie-based and refeed.
To this day, with all of our expanded partial and our 1 week partial and IOP programs, our 3 IOP, everybody gets an individualized meal plan because they're all individuals and have separate needs, and you lead that. That is so true, Sherry. That is.
So what's your experience of that over time? How did you get to that? I mean, you got there before.
Yeah, you did.
I mean,
I think it's because, before I knew about dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT, where you can sell ice to an Eskimo, well, I am able to get a client to eat that doesn't want to eat. But before that, I knew that client had to eat. It was, how am I going to connect and align with this client to get them to buy in to take one bite of something, because there's not another option. They have to eat. And I know that being a dietitian and being in that position of they love and hate a dialect, you know, what the message you have to bring and what you're asking them to do at the very same time. But if you can show them that you really are on their side and you really are trying to align with that healthy part of them, not with the eating disorder, and standing up to that eating disorder even when they can't, as hard as that is, then I think they feel hope.
Mm-hmm.
And eating is not negotiable. All of us need to eat. So if there's some way that they can feel like, okay, this is really hard, and I can still do it, and there's going to be hope. I think that's the biggest thing is, and never giving up. I remember one time I had a reporter come in and ask me a bunch of questions, and I could see she really wasn't getting it. And she finally asked me, she goes, wow, this just sounds like a terrible disease, and you're around all this negativity and challenges, and nobody wants to eat. And she goes, don't you just ever give up? And I guess the look in my face was very dramatic, because she went, whoa, I guess that was the wrong question to ask. And that's true. If we haven't found the right way for a client to be able to do what they need to do, then we need to look. We just haven't found the right way to do it. We haven't taken the goal from, it's too lofty for them. We need to break it down and give them one small bite, one small thing to do, because they can do it and they want to do it. It's just a matter of us coming up with that creative, out-of-the-box thinking. And I think that's another thing is, nutrition is pretty basic when you think about it, but no client is ever the same. And the uniqueness of every client just is fascinating and keeps things fresh. And the clients, like you said, I learn from the clients. Right. If the clients ask me something that I absolutely have no idea about, I will let them know and say, you know what, that's a great question, and we're going to work on that together, because I don't know everything.
And your point about we figure it out, we're figuring it out as we go, we're learning with the clients, we're thinking creatively out of the box. I would say that's the metaphor of what the three of us have done from day one with the clients, that we have sometimes, one time I went to this movie and there were these people on this canoe and they went over this huge waterfalls, and I'm sitting there thinking, there's no way they could survive. And then I think, oh, that's what Sherry Sonny and I just done, and we've survived. And then I think to myself, yes, we can survive. And if we can't survive, then what can we hope for our patients? So we have to survive because our patients are working to survive, so we're going to do it together. And I would say that's been our theme from day one.